It was shaping up to be just another Monday. I had just come back from vacation in Palm Springs celebrating my wife's birthday. I was feeling good. Like the song just said, I was feeling like the man. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. On that particular morning, not even my peeps on the Metro Green or Blue line could throw my day off. And if you've ever ridden any type of public transportation in a major U.S. city, you know the type of people I'm talking about. You know the guy selling incense before you get on the train. Nope, I still don't want any. I didn't want any yesterday, and I won't want any tomorrow. But you keep on hustling, because that's the American dream. To the resident homeless guy, chilling on the train, who told me that I needed to throw my dress shoes away because they were ugly. Sir, could you please get some shoes before you talk about mine? And to the crazy person standing in front of the train doors talking nonsense, I don't know why Britney Spears took your sock, but I agree with you, that's totally uncalled for. Regardless of that, I still got one eye on you. Yep, I was feeling good. I arrived at my normal 7th and Fig stop in downtown LA to the normal hustle and bustle of a typical workday. Upon arriving at the office, I went through my normal routine. Go to the kitchen, get my usual cup of coffee, speak to a couple of the homies, and settle in for the day. As I was settling in, my boss stopped by my desk and said, "Let me talk to you in my office real quick." So I walked in the office, and immediately I had a weird feeling like time had suddenly slowed down. As I walked in, to my immediate left was the human resource lady. And I thought to myself, that's weird. Why is she in here? But I smiled at her, and she gave me a sheepish grin back. My boss went to close the door, and before I sat down, it hit me. Oh, hell no! Is what I'm thinking really going to happen? Am I about to get fired? Oh, you see, this was 2009, and I worked at a bank. The real estate bubble had fully burst, and it was about to burst my own personal bubble. My boss started to explain how the bank had really got hit hard by the downturn in the market, and that 75% of our department was getting laid off. As I sat there listening, his voice slowly turned into the teacher's voice on Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. As a million thoughts started rushing through my head, the next thing I heard was, "Do you have any questions?" Hell yeah, I have some questions. For one, what the hell am I going to do? Number two, how come you guys didn't tell me this before I went on vacation? Number three, why would Britney only take one of Crazy Dude's socks and not take both? It's not making any sense. I need answers, people. I needed answers, but there were none. The human resource lady eventually handed me a packet that contained my walking papers. She started explaining some details, and after spacing out for a little bit, I finally heard her say, "So you have two choices. Either you quit right now and walk out the door, or should you choose to accept this 6-month severance package, we will need you to complete your final week of work and close out everything." Now, first of all, if I valued my life at all, which I did, I was going to take that severance package, otherwise my wife would have killed me. One thing about my wife, she can't stand stupidity, and I wasn't about to let pride get me knocked out. 6 months pay, where do I sign up? The following week I came into work and started looking for other positions, but realized the whole real estate industry was downsizing. Everyone was getting laid off, which meant I couldn't really jump back into real estate. So about 2 days into my final week, I began daydreaming about what do I really want to do with my life? What do I really enjoy? I started thinking about my friends who were in the entertainment business, doing the acting thing, and how fun that would be. But I could never do that. Could I? I looked around at where I was and thought, what do I have to lose? Let me scratch this itch I've always had for acting. If I don't like it, at least I know I tried, but I don't want to live my life with any regrets. I don't want to be 80 years old and wonder, what if I would have just tried? So, I was set to go. Only one problem. What was I going to tell my wife? How was I going to tell my wife that the dude she married, who only had experience in finance, suddenly wanted to be an actor? Remember, her and stupidity, they didn't get along. And the more I thought about it, this conversation was going to have me hanging out with stupidity, somewhere outside of my house. But I sucked it up, told her the situation, and she was surprisingly receptive. I thought to myself, oh, it's on and cracking now. So my next step was to do some research online for beginning acting classes around the LA area, and I found a class in North Hollywood that allowed me to audit a class. The class was relatively small, and at the beginning of the class, it consisted of me just really sitting in the audience and watching the actors do some warm-up games. During one of the games, the instructor motioned me over and said, "Hey, this is an interactive class. You're welcome to join." My initial reaction was just to play it cool, you know, stay seated. Then it dawned on me, you know what? I don't know any of these people, and I'll probably never see them again. So I jumped right up and surprisingly picked up the games fairly quickly, and it was exhilarating. One of the games involved people letting out a primal yell or a weird sound with a corresponding physical action, with the rest of the class repeating the same action and sound. Now, being a huge basketball fan and having no real background in the acting game, the first sound and action that came to mind was the typical yell and pose after an NBA player dunks a basketball. Ah! Now, let me tell you something. There is nothing funnier than seeing a bunch of actors who have zero athletic background yelling and flexing like NBA basketball players. And the best part to me was no matter how ridiculous the sound and action, there was no judgment. There was no wrong answer, which was a world away from my financial upbringing where everything was very clear-cut. Now, after the warm-up, a couple students did some prepared scenes, and I was asked if I wanted to participate in an exercise. At first, I was nervous and skeptical, but said, you know what? Bump it. Why not? So I jumped up, was paired up with one of the female students, and was told to go stand behind the door on stage. The instructor then told me to just come in, react to how my scene partner is acting towards me. Don't try and be funny, just repeat whatever she says. I was like, cool, that sounds easy enough. So once I was behind the door, an internal struggle ensued. Part of me was like, what in the hell are you doing? This is crazy. And the other part of me was like, I know, and it's awesome. So after what seemed like an eternity, I heard my scene partner's feet coming to the door, and my heart was pounding, and I was like, what am I going to see? Was she going to be happy? Was she going to be sobbing uncontrollably? Was she going to be acting like she was on drugs? What's going on? The door flew open, and to my surprise, my partner was eyeing me up and down seductively like a tiger who just found its afternoon snack. He was ready to pounce. Now this totally threw me off. And being the smooth brother that I am, that awkward moment was uncharted territory. Now I knew I was supposed to repeat, but it seemed like my mind went blank for a moment. I mean, I entered the room and just began to repeat and just take her in. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew my reactions were authentic because, quite frankly, I didn't know what the hell was going on. My partner was being ultra seductive. And when I say seductive, I'm not talking about in a playful way like, oh my God, I can totally tell you're acting. No, I'm talking about like this girl done lost her mind. Look, I'm a man who likes my personal space. But this girl was up in my face. I mean, up in my face. To the point I thought she was actually going to kiss me. Now, at my job, probably your job, and any normal job for that matter, her behavior would have been deemed, shall I call it, sexual harassment? But of course this was acting, where these boundaries were accepted, in fact, encouraged. But I was like, oh hell no, lady, you got to back up. Because in my head, I was thinking, this will be the one random moment where my wife would walk in the room and find me in a lip lock with this heifer. And if that was the case, we would have all been on the news like, tonight there was a double homicide in an acting studio in North Hollywood. One victim was a male who suffered severe head trauma and died from what seemed to be a really hard smack to the back of the head. The second victim was a woman who suffered what appears to be a Mortal Kombat finishing move, as her spine was pulled out through her mouth. Like I said, my wife does not deal with stupidity. Now we finally finished the scene, to which I shot the instructor a look like, about time, man. You trying to get me killed? Shoot. Now the funny thing was, my scene partner, she peeled off me and went and sat down like nothing had ever happened. So although I was beyond relieved, I kind of felt used. The instructor went on to tell me that he had purposely told the girl to act like that, and that it was interesting to watch. Interesting for him, torture for me. As the class ended that night and I was gathering myself together and reflecting on my new experience, I knew one thing for sure. I had to keep this going. The beast had been let out, and it was like, I'm not going back. So in the end, I'm not mad at luck, because bad luck led me to taking the leap of faith and pursuing my passion. I'm thankful to be on the path that I'm on, chasing my dream, because that's something nobody can steal from me. That or one of my socks.